Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, a podcast about leaving self-doubt in the dust, punching fear in the face, and taking bold action toward your biggest dreams. I'm Angie Coley, and let's get to it. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass. Today I am so excited to introduce to you my friend, Raven Douglas. Welcome to the show, Raven.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Angie. Super excited to be here.
I'm so glad. So Raven and I actually officially met for the first time. So we're recording in April right now. We met for the first time in March when I happened to be traveling through Memphis. Many of you know that I'm a digital nomad full time. And then we quickly became like lunch, dinner, happy hour buddies, hanging out. Yeah. And talking whenever we could manage. And so I love that I basically strong-armed her into coming on the show because I think she's got a lot to share with you guys. You want to tell us a little bit about your background?
Sure. So I have been a copywriter for June will actually make 9 years. I really can't believe that it's been that long because I feel like I'm kind of young. I started off actually just like as an enterprising and very hustling college student who didn't really know much about copy, but I thought it was really neat to figure out why people behave the way that they did and what people believed. And so I was taking psychology and marketing 101, and I was also taking theology. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Sure. And I said yes to some projects like an enterprising, hustling college student. And figured out how to do it on the back end, right? Like I hit the library, I found an old book by Bob Bly, figured out that it was called Copy, wrote my first copy that was terrible, so egregious. But after that, I figured, oh, well, if I could do it for these, local people that I knew, I could probably also do this for other local businesses. So I started pitching and incidentally got pretty decent at cold pitching and eventually also pitched some agencies. From there, my career just kind of spawned into this, oh, I'll take clients whenever I want. Like, it's fine. This is a lot of fun. While I was working a traditional 9-to-5 on the side in retail management. And then I moved into teaching, which ironically enough, both of those like really helped me in my copy career too. And then I took clients on the side for a while until I decided to leave teaching because I hated it. Like I didn't love it anymore. It was kind of soul crushing. And I was having to turn down business as a copywriter. And I went full time and I had zero plan on how to full time this with like real leads and all of that. So I struggled for about, I don't know, like 6-8 months. Like ramen noodles, Vienna sauce, just struggled. And eventually along the way, I got noticed by some really cool companies. And before I knew it, I was actually writing copy that made them a lot of money. So much so that they didn't want to tell me how much money they made. And while I was doing all of that, like every penny I had, I kind of just threw back into professional development. Like I would just hound people that I thought were great. And I was like, look, this is how much money I have. Will you just critique my copy? Can I just look over your shoulder? Can you break down a promo for me? Like just, you can sell me a video. It's fine. It kind of felt like buying feet pics before that was cool, but but yeah, that was what it was until I was able to like properly be mentored and like I had enough money for that. And now here I am, and like I can't believe that my work has been seen on a Super Bowl commercial. That like I've actually bought products and they are in my home that I've written packaging for. Mm-hmm. That I have little website babies out in the world. So yeah, that's the long of long.
That's such a cool feeling when you get like a package and writing packaging copy is. So when I say packaging copy, for those of you that are new to this, I'm talking about like the words on a box on the products that you get. And it's kind of cool for someone to send you a sample of this box and be like, whoa, I wrote the words on that. That's freaking trippy.
Yeah.
Oh man, just in your intro alone, you said so many great things because I had the same experience where I read a book and started copying. My book was The Well-Fed Writer by Peter Bowerman. It turns out that I had a book by Bob Bly in my possession for years and I had read it. But when I first read it, I had no idea what the fuck he was saying. And that to me just proved that like read it, sit with it. If it doesn't make sense, it eventually will, because I reread that Bob Bly book several years later and was like, oh, I get it now. But like when I first came across it, I just didn't get it. So maybe that's a good tip for all of our people, is if you read a business book, if you hear an entrepreneurship podcast, say, and something you hear doesn't make sense, well, keep digging in, because it eventually will.
Oh, yes.
I love that you specifically said that you were doing this full time. When you eventually decided that you wanted to go out, you went out with zero plan. And that was because you were already starting to get more business than you could handle, and your job was keeping you from taking more business. I love that. And the cool thing about that was, I know that you said you were doing a ramen and Vienna sausage diet there for a little while. And for about 6 months you were working on it. That's actually what I've found a lot of people, that seems to be an accurate timeline for getting some traction in your business the first time around. But I really liked that once you started gaining that traction and you started getting some more solid money coming in, that you immediately turned that around and invested it in getting better. Because I think so many people are scared to spend money at that point in their career.
Oh yeah.
Were you a little bit scared to reinvest that, or you were just like, nope, I want to be the best?
It's, when I look back on my frame of mind at the time, I actually, one of the things that I did was when I was like broke as a joke, I took a $1,500 invoice that's like, I just invoiced somebody for the third time, hoping that they would pay it, because there was a copywriter conference that I wanted to go to in New York, and I was living in Mississippi at the time. And I said, okay, I really need to go, but I'm like so broke. I felt like I had to be there. Mm-hmm. And looking back on it, like I definitely had bills to pay. So I don't know why I was crazy enough to be like, yes, I'm going to travel hundreds of miles from Mississippi to New York. And I took that, and I think I paid my rent, and what was left over, or no, I take it back. I didn't even pay my rent. I paid for the conference ticket and then I paid my rent. And then with what was left over, I bought a bus ticket from Jackson, Mississippi to New York City, because I couldn't afford the flight during Valentine's Day weekend.
Holy shit.
And I rode 28 hours with 3 layers of clothes on the bus. And then it was like a 34-hour trip back because we got stuck in the snow.
Oh,
so yeah.
Jeez. I have a similar story too when I first started out, because I fixated on this one conference. I know yours was the Copywriter Club in real life, correct?
Correct.
Mine was the Action Seminar by John Carlton. And that was back in 2013, I want to say, 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. And something similar thing that I knew I had to go. I had no logical reason. I couldn't afford the ticket. I couldn't afford the travel. I don't know why, but something in my gut was like, go to this thing. You need to be there. So I hid this for years, that before crowdfunding was a thing and everybody could set up a GoFundMe and beg for money. I created a crowdfunding campaign and sold, it was so stupid. I was so embarrassed by this. I sold $5 haikus. Like I'd write you a personal haiku and send it on a greeting card. Or I sold $20 song dedications at my regular karaoke night or with my band, and a bunch of other goofy packages, all the way up to like low ticket copy offers where like I was charging a low amount, but they were getting a pretty high return. And I actually earned the money for the ticket. And the same thing, like I drove down there, I stayed in a cheap ass hotel. I stalked all of the people that I wanted to learn from to the bar, and then like carried around a glass of water, making it look like I was drinking and I could afford to be there, but I couldn't. Just kind of soaked it up and made all the connections that I could. And I mean, I can literally trace so much of my growth and my evolution in my career back to that one decision to just do whatever I could to be at that thing that I felt was going to help me get to the next level. Did that conference speak to you? And that's it. Well, clearly that conference spoke to you because you got on a bus with 3 layers of clothes, which is amazing.
Oh yeah. That conference was, when I got there, I was like, this is exactly what I needed. Mm-hmm. I needed to be here. And it was the things that I learned at that conference directly, not even 2 weeks later, booked me the biggest deal in my copy business. And then another 2 weeks later, I topped that deal. So it was, it was definitely worth it. Like, it was crazy times. And if I look back on it, I'm like, Raven, what were you thinking? This, like, I was sleeping on a friend of a friend's couch, right? This person I barely know is like, and I'm taking like 4 trains just to get to the conference.
Mm-hmm.
So if I look back on it, it's like, oh no, like I could not do that now at my big age. Like I could not. But back then, it definitely made a difference.
You get to a certain age where you're like, no, I can't sleep rough like that anymore. My back's going to hurt. My neck's going to hurt. I'm going to be grumpy tomorrow.
Yeah. And also waking up like, and someone walks out of their room and you're just kind of on their couch. You know, it's also like, hi there. Person I don't really know.
And I'm definitely that person at conferences these days that like, I don't close down the bar with people. I used to when I was younger, but now I just kind of disappear somewhere around 10, 11 and go back and get a full night's sleep because I actually want to not bite people's heads off tomorrow. But you learn more about yourself the more you follow these gut instincts, which I think is really cool, and figure out what it is that your intuition is trying to tell you in this decision. And I had a similar, when I went to the action seminar, same thing, 2 weeks later, booked the biggest project of my copywriting career, made some connections that eventually led me to where I am now. Like I can literally trace all of that back to that decision. And it's kind of crazy. Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. We have so much in common. That's crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I know before we got on and started recording, we were talking a little bit about negotiation and how that's coming up as a theme in your life lately. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So actually it's the people, like colleagues of mine they keep coming up and they're like, oh, well, I have this idea for this deal, or this deal is in my lap and somebody's interested, but I'm not sure what to charge. Or like they have an idea about a budget that they've proposed, but I think it's more than that. And I'm like, okay, well, what's your comfortable number? And why aren't you saying that? And I'm just not sure. And I don't really know why. And I'm just like, okay, so not to go super woo woo on you, but why are you afraid to tell them that it's worth this, right? Like, why are you afraid to counter? Why are you afraid to say no? And it's so interesting how many copywriters are like, I'm just not sure. Like, should I charge that extra $2,000? And it's like, look, if you're running your own business, Uncle Sam is going to eat that extra $2,000 in taxes, honey. Okay. Mm-hmm. Like you won't even see it. So you might as well charge it. And even in negotiating like boundaries and things with clients, like the whole of all the things that I guess kind of negotiation could entail, it's so interesting how many of my colleagues are like, oh, well, I'm just not sure, or I'm not comfortable, or I don't know how to say this. And, they assume that being polite and agreeable in business is what's going to keep them in business, and that being direct is going to somehow, or asking for what they deserve is going to somehow make people not want to work with them or make people say no. And so my kind of personal mission, whenever I hear any of my colleagues say that, or even when it happens to me, is like, okay, so the first thing you need to do is write down what your non-negotiables are. Like you need to define those things for yourself. Mm-hmm. Once you define your non-negotiables, like make sure you keep that list next to you as you go through it, even if you have to like write bullet points for a script or, however that needs to go, like, you know what your non-negotiables are. Make sure that you have those in hand and don't take anything less than those non-negotiables. Yep. Or else like be comfortable walking away, like, cause that's okay.
I think that's so important because we forget that we have power in every situation. It doesn't necessarily mean that the choices are all going to be amazing choices or exciting choices or even easy choices, but there's always a choice. And in this situation where you're trying to get new business and your options are, they accept your price, they negotiate, or you walk away if they're not agreeing to your terms, you can walk away. Trust that, like, there's almost 8 billion people on this planet. There's going to be another deal. There's always going to be another deal. So trust yourself enough to walk away from something that's not serving you. Like, even if it feels a little bit desperate, I don't know. It's just so easy to get into that, like erode your personal principles a little bit at a time when you don't have a list like that to remind you of what your non-negotiables are. Like, one of mine is I will not sell bullshit. Like, if I don't think that this is actually making a difference in the world, if this is not a product out there that's designed to improve someone's life, bring a little bit of good out there in the world, you won't find me selling financial products. And that's not because I think that they're all bad. There's definitely some great financial advice, some great financial advisors. I follow some of them, but there are so many products out there where it's all about make as much money in as little time and sipping Mai Tais on the beach. And I just don't buy into that. To me, I don't know, just get rich quick stuff doesn't feel good to me. So I can't sell it. And that's one of my non-negotiables.
Yeah, that's good.
Do you have similar approach?
I do. So anything that feels spammy or scammy at all. So definitely get rich quick. For me, something that deeply offends my morals and values. So like, I can disagree with a perspective and still write for it. Right. Like, it's like, I don't know, one of the really polarizing things in our country right now is, like politics. Like, if it's not my political view, as long as there is no deceit and like, we're not, misleading people, it's not dishonest, I can write for it as long as I can understand the frame of reference, and research will help me with that. That's fine. But if it like deeply offends my morals, it's a no for me. Yeah. Anybody that expects daily updates is also a no for me. Like, they're usually a no for me, where they're like, yes, I would like an update every day at 8 a.m. Yes, so this project is going to feel as if we won't be a match. Best of luck. May the odds be ever in your favor.
Oh, yeah. Same thing. Anybody that tries to track my time or get me to sign into like an hourly thing, like, first of all, I don't work on hourly. I work on results. Like, we're literally flushing some of your results down the drain by distracting me, making me track my time. I'm way more efficient if I'm not worrying about the time I'm committing to it. And, that's so funny. I've heard someone talk about, especially as freelancers, if we're hired to do a service for somebody and they're renting space in our brains, especially creatives. This is not something like a typical J job where I sit down at my computer at 9:00 and I focus exclusively on your product until, 5 p.m. and then I log off and I don't think about you again until tomorrow. When you're a creative, you're out on a walk, you're out on a dinner date, an idea pops into your head, you're in the shower working out the particulars of an advertisement campaign, an idea that just popped into your head. And I just find it so funny when people want to track my time. I'm like, okay, so if you want to get that granular, I'm going to start billing you for like 15 minutes in the shower, 45 minutes on the walk, because that's when I was really writing all of this. Like, ass in a chair isn't the only thing that counts here.
Oh yeah. Cause my brain was completely working all that time, right? Like, I was thinking of the big idea while I was cooking my lunch. Definitely. So, obviously I need to be paid for this. So you're right. Also, and that's the slackers. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. The Slack and any all other platforms. Oh, yes, we like to keep our tasks in Asana, or yes, we want you to use Slack and this is how we like to communicate. It's like, nope, I've got pretty strict boundaries and non-negotiables about communication.
That's pretty important too, because I had a consulting client once that we designed a deal to help him where I would meet with him for a certain amount of calls and we would figure out a strategy together. And then I would help him find a copywriter that could deliver on that strategy. And I would coach that copywriter through it. And I thought it was a pretty cool deal because that plays to all my strengths. I love thinking of the strategy. I like helping copywriters create their work and feel very strong in their work. So it was great. And I remember this client coming back to me and being like, great, we'll get you set up in our Slack channel today. And I was like, I can do the work you hired me to do, or I can answer Slack pings all day. I'll let you choose which one is more important to you. And he just we were on a Zoom call and I could see his face and he just looked really taken aback. And I'm like, no, a lot of people ask me to be in their Slack channels and I'm telling you, once I'm in the Slack channel, people are going to want to ping me. They're going to want to ask me questions directly. I think that I'm better served as your strategist if you are the gatekeeper that, or you assign someone to be a gatekeeper that collects the team questions and brings them to me versus everybody can just ping me whenever.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that though. Like, I think all of these non-negotiables come directly from having chose practically the opposite. At least in my case, I always have to learn everything the hard way and being like, wow, I don't like that. I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
That same thing kind of happened to you, that you signed into one too many Slack channels. Like, no.
Yes. And I was just like, oh no, never again. Like, I really had a client tell me, it's like, yeah, well, we would just love it if you would answer us, more promptly. Oh, let's redefine what prompt means here. And let's redefine the expectations for my contributions as a contractor and not as a team member.
Yes.
So in that moment, I was like, never again. I will never join another Slack channel. Nope.
Oh, you just brought up such a great point too. And I want all the listeners this is a writer downer, guys. When you start a freelance business, you are not signing up to be someone's employee. You're not signing on to their company culture. You're not signing on to their work time. You're not even signing on to their processes necessarily unless you agree to it. This is not an approval game. You run your company the way you want to run your company. You structure your hours the way you want to structure your hours. And there's going to be a learning curve on that. Like, you're not going to go directly to market and know exactly how you work best, who you work best with. There's going to be some fits and starts. It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest mistake that I see so many new freelancers and entrepreneurs is like, they only have an employee frame of reference because they've been an employee for most of their lives. So there's nothing wrong with looking at things through the filter of an employee. But then that means that you're not really running a business. You're being an employee for hire.
Yep.
And you're letting other people make decisions on how you work best and what you should turn over and what your hourly rate should be if you don't get good at setting these boundaries and figuring out what numbers you need to run the business. And so learning to be a business owner is, to circle back to what you were saying about just even writing this list of non-negotiables before you sit down to negotiate a new contract. Yeah. This is about knowing what you need, learning what you need, and then trusting if you make some mistakes along the way, if you let yourself get invited to a Slack channel because it feels like, it's just this one. And then suddenly you've got 10 different Slack channels to manage. That's happened to me. Yeah. Just know that if you keep tracking this, you keep writing this down, you get better and better at this as you go. And then it becomes easier to say this to people. Like, no, that's not how I run my business. This is my policy. If you feel really uncomfortable saying, I don't work like that, you can always say, this is the company policy. Foist it off on an imaginary office manager, make that person make all your decisions for you. They get to take all the blame, and they don't exist. It's convenience.
Oh yeah. It's great. It's great. They'll never even talk to them. It's just like, this is, hey, them's the breaks. Sorry. Mm-hmm.
My office manager tells me I can't do that. Sorry. Who is your office manager? Technically me, but you don't need to know that. I see. That's the only part of fake it until you make it that I think I really advocate, because I'm all about being open and honest where you're at, because there's somebody for everybody, no matter what stage you're at. So you don't have to fake your skills. You don't have to fake your credentials and pretend that you have results or experience that you don't have. But you can set boundaries. And if you're uncomfortable saying, I am the person that chose to make this decision on my behalf, you can just default to company policy. Mm-hmm. And in that way, you can fake it until you make it, because you've got this company that's protecting you from being out there and being kind of vulnerable if you don't feel like you particularly know what you're doing yet. You're not entirely confident.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, this is so great. This is so great. I have so many notes. I want to circle back to negotiation, because I heard you talking a little bit about numbers, and I wanted to dig into that a little bit more. So I think that great place to start is with writing down your non-negotiables. How do you approach pricing? Do you have a system for that?
Oh, okay. So yes and no. Yes, because I have like a base system that I use. I feel like that everybody uses, and I'm going to put this disclaimer out there, people listening, this approach is hours based. However, there is an addition to that because you are not being paid for your time. You're being paid for your results.
Yep.
For your ability to bring results. So that said, realistically, I have like my everything cost, like what I know I need for literally every single facet of my life, the lifestyle I enjoy, for my business to stay, like not just stay afloat, but to thrive, right? Like all of those things I add up and that's my everything cost. I know that my business needs to make about at least 30% more than my everything costs for me to feel comfortable. So, and that's just to give me, you know, like some cushion is where I add in that extra 30%. So I take that everything cost for just like 1 month and I divide that by the number of hours that I know I want to work in a given month.
Mm-hmm.
Those number of hours that I know I want to work in a given month, I'm like, okay, this is how much I need to make per hour. So let me apply this to each project for roughly how many hours each project would take. So I know I might have, I don't know, 2 launches or, you know, in a given month, which is a lot, but might happen. Or, you know I can write 3 email sequences. And like, these are the kind of projects that whatever kind of combinations would get me to my everything cost. Right. And I know realistically, because I've been doing it this long, at least, I know how many projects I can take in a given month, in a given week, what I'm going to do on a day, because I've also already set out how many hours I want to work. And that includes, you know, like research, the whole shebang. So I just apply those numbers. And usually I also add like a 10% buffer, just in case I feel like I'm pricing too low, to account for potential headache tax, to account for potential asshole tax, if there's somebody new. Yes, I just build in an extra 10% to the figures that come out. And in that, like, you know, at that point, I'm in good shape, right? Because I've already added 30% to what my everything cost is. And once I've broken that down into specifics for each project, I add 10% to that. And like, I'm comfortable. I'm like, okay, my CPA is going to be happy. I am happy because I get to do bougie things and I don't have to worry about this. This is great.
I love that. And okay, so I want to point out for those of you who are clients who have hired me for things, you are not being charged an asshole tax because I make it a point not to work with assholes. But I will say for everybody else that's considering, ooh, I like this asshole tax. You know what? Charging more money will go a long way towards making you feel a little bit less aggravated with this person. Like, all right, well, at least I'm earning enough to compensate for this extra aggravation. Oh my gosh. That's saved my sanity so many times. And I think, you know, what you said about the everything number, like taking into account your expenses in the lifestyle that you want to live. I think that is such a key mindset to take, because I see so many people, they set out, they start making their freelance plans and they start thinking about what they need to make. And first of all, they're not accounting for taxes and business expenses and anything like that. So they're not accounting for that extra 40% that you're tacking on. And then they're scaling their lifestyle back to ramen and Vienna sausages.
Yep.
And they are setting their targets at that level. And I'm like, oh, if that's what you're aiming for, how do you expect to go any higher? No. Build your budget around the lifestyle that you want to live. And that's with a caveat. Like if you want to live a Lamborghini lifestyle, well, then you're going to have to hustle, my friend, and you're going to have to find people with big budgets. But start with where you want to go in mind, not with the bare minimum you need to survive. That's like one critical mindset shift I think you need. And the cool thing about you mentioning hours is like, that's an internal calculation. I want to second what Raven said too. That's not something that you go to your client and say, I charge $500 an hour, because their immediate response is going to be like, well, can we shave an hour off that? I want to save $500. No, it doesn't work that way. You estimate on the back end, okay, so it's 500. I'm just doing this for neat math. It's $500 an hour. I think it'll take me about 3 hours of focused work to do this. So that's going to be $1,500 for that project. And that makes the math really easy, so that when you go to the client, you say $1,500. And then like Raven said, you add on a little asshole tax for that, just in case. And then that way you've bought yourself a little bit of wiggle room. And the great thing about this flat fee, you know, it's easy for you to calculate because you know kind of the time commitment involved. But if you don't give in to Parkinson's law, which is this idea of the amount of time you give it is how much time it's going to take. So like if you give yourself 2 weeks to get it done, it's going to take 2 weeks. If you get really good at doing these things fast, then and you can do that 3-hour project in 2 hours. Well, then in the third hour, you can start on your next project. And I'm not good at math myself. I struggle with the numbers, but think about the profitability there when you start to stack the work.
Yeah.
And you're not just working on an hourly basis, but you're charging those flat fees. I think that's so cool.
Oh yeah. And also for the record, I am too terrible at math. So I'm not even going to attempt to try and tell you guys like what ROI is. I won't do it.
You will notice that I always use nice round numbers and I'm like, math, is it working? I don't know. Honestly, y'all check me. I don't care.
Yeah. The armchair SEC is not going to come from me. So,
no. And I have people much better at math. So this is the beauty of business too. You don't have to be good at all the things. You can find other people that are great at the things that you're not particularly good at and hire them to do those things for you. It's fantastic.
Yes. Second that, triple that, quadruple that. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I was talking to somebody else on one of the earlier episodes, and she's my online business manager, but she loves creating spreadsheets for tracking different things. And I'm like, yes, please go play in the spreadsheet sandbox. I don't keep that like a mile away from me. I don't like spreadsheets. I do like when somebody else creates a spreadsheet and then I can go look at it and go, oh, okay, I get it. And then leave again. But creating it, populating it, so not my thing.
Yeah. Anything that's not my thing and I utterly hate it, I'm like, wow, this is soul crushing. Mm-hmm. Nope. My soul is just, it feels depleted, guys. I can't do this. Can someone please help?
Yeah. And I mean, look, if you're going to take on the risk of building this business, because it is risky and businesses fail, and I don't say that to scare you, but just to prepare you for reality so that you are saving money, you're making sure that you're thinking about contingency plans, but still taking action. You don't have to take on anything that you don't want to. And that's the benefit of taking on this risk.
Yeah.
So if you hate spreadsheets, find a way to make money to pay someone else to deal with your spreadsheets. It's fantastic. That's the beauty of this, because you are no one's damn employee, not even your own businesses. And you don't have to take on any job that you don't want to. So the job still needs to get done. I will say that caveat. Like, you can't pretend it doesn't exist and be like, accounting, what's that? Oh shit, it's tax time. Like, don't pretend it doesn't exist. Don't bury your head in the sand. Don't be ignorant like that. But, be aware, try it out, see if you like it. If you don't like it, find a way to have somebody else do it. You can totally do that. It's your business.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's and I would also say that, like, I learned this from Rob. Well, I didn't learn this from Rob. I relearned this from Rob, I should say. Like, I was reminded of this, that Rob Marsh was just saying, he was like, oh, and like, paying someone doesn't always mean money, right? Like, if you're just starting out, especially, or even if you're not, like, paying someone doesn't always mean money. Mm-hmm. It's and it doesn't strictly mean, like, just bartering your skill set as well either. Like, people need so many things in their business, and you guys get to determine the value of that. Whether it is going to be a strictly barter, whether it is going to be, a combination of like barter and pay, whether it's going to be introductions and connections. That was a new one for me. Mm-hmm. When someone's like, oh yeah, I have this person to introduce you to. And I'm just like, I wasn't sure. And if I had said no, just on the basis that I wasn't getting paid, I definitely would have missed out on like $30,000 worth of revenue. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's it was crazy.
That's such a good point, because I have somebody that I bartered with fairly early on in the second evolution of my freelance business. And it was a low fee, but I was paying them to do work for me, and we negotiated a low fee because sometimes the budget is the budget and that's what you can afford. And I was so over the top blown away by how hard they worked for me, considering, we had reached a lower fee agreement than they wanted, that I just started recommending them to everybody. And I probably sent them at least $50,000 a year worth of business over the last 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not always about money and holding the line and being like, nope, you could pay me $10,000 or get the fuck out. This brings us back to that topic of negotiation perfectly, because money isn't always the thing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think that's so smart of you to point out.
Well, that's because, I've been broke in life. So I understand that struggle. But I've also been that person that, like, I made those mistakes before where it was just like, no, if I'm not being paid, and it was not the right decision. Like, it wasn't. So, it makes a difference. But I for sure have been like that broke entrepreneur that's like, oh no, I can't afford to pay you your rate. Can I pay you this though?
Yeah. For those of you that are listening, Broke Angie and Broke Raven are making an appearance today to speak to you and teach you, learn from our mistakes, take a little bit more of a holistic approach when evaluating the value of a project. There's so many intangibles to calculate too. Can they refer more people to you? Can you make that part? Yes. Can they record, like literally a video record? It's so hard to get people to do that sometimes, but can they record you a testimonial and talk about the results or the great things that you did for them? Can they get you into a training that will take your freelancing skills to the next level? I've had that happen before. Can they get you into a mastermind where you could potentially network with and do business with other smart people in your industry? There's so many. Can you get mentoring from somebody for a lower rate? Like if they pay you less, but they're going to train you directly and just like pour 20 years worth of knowledge into your head. I've done that deal before too. And has it paid off? It's paid off so much in dividends.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really those are the ones that are really worth it. When someone's like, oh, I have this training, or yes, I will mentor you 1-to-1. Like if it's a thing that I want to learn, sign me up.
I will totally negotiate on that. And then that too comes back to what you initially said about the choice to walk away, which like if you negotiate for one of these things and the person that you did the deal with doesn't hold up on their end of the bargain, well, then you got to walk away.
Oh yeah, you do.
And that's the hard part, I think, sometimes, because we don't want to burn bridges. And I'm sassy. You're sassy too, Raven. I will never advocate torching a relationship just because, but I will tell someone that is unacceptable. I don't appreciate that. How do we fix this? Do you want to fix this? I want to fix this. Yeah.
Like I'll usually extend an olive branch first, but I'm like, if it's not met with reason or compassion or understanding, and also an explanation, because I realize that like, this is a bit of a segue, but I'm realizing more things about myself now as I get older. Go figure, who knew that actually happened? But as I realize now more about my languages of apology, even, I also require explanations for things. That it can't just be one of those things where like, oh, well, we talk it out. Like, no, I need to know why this happened, because like, I need to understand it. I need to know whether it's going to happen again so that I can make that decision whether or not I want to walk away.
Oh, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, my Colby. So apparently my Colby, I'm a very high fact finder. And so I need all the facts to feel like I'm making an informed decision. And that definitely includes like, all right, where was the ball dropped? Why was the ball dropped? What are we going to do about the ball being dropped? Is this going to happen again reasonably?
That's so good. And I love these tests. Like knowing more about yourself and how you operate is always a good thing in my mind. I took Colby too. Apparently I'm a really weird score that's fairly small, like in terms of percentage. I am a high fact finder, but I'm a higher quick start. So I will do tons and tons and tons of research. And then eventually I'll be like, enough, let's go. And then it'll be off to the races. And then I start like 20 different projects because I'm excited about all of them. And I've done all the research, and the starting of the project gets me really fired up. And then finishing it, I usually have to bring someone else in, like, help me get this over the finish line. I'm so bored. I'm lower on implementation and follow through. But it helps to know that about myself. Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes a difference.
It really does. Oh, this is all such good information. So I'm going to have you on for a follow-up, first of all, just saying that. Second of all, will you tell us a little bit more about where to find you if people want more information?
Yes. Okay. So if people want information about me, you can find me first on LinkedIn with my first and last name, Raven Douglas. You can also find me on my website, thedouglasdraft.com. It usually has a cover page up that gives you like the real lowdown on me, which is something called my anti-site. I hope you enjoy it. And you can also find me. My name is the same on the rest of my social media. Fair warning, I am very asocial on social media. I will definitely see it and respond to you, but you will not see me posting very much because my introvert just creeps out.
Yeah, you have to lure Raven out. I know this from experience with brunch. Raven responds to brunch very well. But you're going to have to fight with me over that because I reserve all the brunch dates for the future, just saying. So thank you so much again for coming on the show. We are definitely going to do this again, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Angie. It has been a blast. I can't believe an hour's already gone by.
So that is it. Another awesome episode of Permission to Kick Ass on the books. If you want to know more about the show, if you want to know more about me, Angie Coley, and the mission I'm on to help entrepreneurs punch fear in the face and do big, bold things, then head on over to permissiontokickass.com. That is all one word together, permissiontokickass.com. Make sure to sign up for my email list so that you know whenever there's a hot, fresh, and ready podcast episode out for you. And also on Mondays, I like to send out a little newsletter called Kick Monday's Ass. I'm sure you're totally surprised by that. So thank you for being here with me today. I'm Angie Coley. Make sure that you share this with a friend that needs to hear this message today. Like it, share it, comment wherever you're listening to this today, and let's go kick some ass.